Welcome to Mom Breaks. In this episode, I'm talking with postpartum psychosis survivor Dr. Rowena Winkler. Rowena has a PhD in communication and works full-time counseling graduate students to get jobs, coaches women in their careers through a side business, and has flexed her creative side through blog posts, theater, ballroom dancing, and monologues about postpartum psychosis, even. In this conversation, she shares details about her experience with psychosis, both as a college student and as a second-time mom. We'll talk about the development of her symptoms and their Broadway flair, and her advocacy work to raise awareness since. She is a joy. We briefly discuss some symptoms of paranoia related to being shot at, and that's my only trigger warning for you on this one. Enjoy.
My name is Rowena, and I live in Maryland, so between Baltimore and DC, but I'm originally from New Jersey, so you can, take the girl out of Jersey, but I'm still a very proud Jersey girl. And I was brought down to Maryland for graduate school, actually. I got my master's and my PhD in communication at University of Maryland College Park. Go Terps.
Nice.
And while I was a grad student, I joined the ballroom team, so ballroom dancing.
Nice.
As you know, Megan, I have a creative background. I perform, do theater, but as a grad student, performing in musicals was a little bit difficult. So I found ballroom dancing, and that's how I met my husband, Derek. He's
lovely.
also a dancer. And that's what led me to stay in Maryland. So I guess I moved. I've been here permanently after I had a short stint as a professor in Virginia. So I've been here since 2016. So it's been almost 10 years now that I've hung out here in Maryland. And yeah, I now have two beautiful children, which I'm sure I'll talk more about.
So I had read through Rowena's blog about her postpartum psychosis experience. And stay tuned for the blog entry I asked her to read towards the end of the episode. It is really resonated with me, and I hope it resonates with you. Rowena also happens to have a TED Talk on finding authentic alignment and a coaching practice for women who are wanting to make changes in their life and get unstuck. Looks like she uses modalities like astrology and tarot. And our connect was energizing. I'm intrigued. Send her an inquiry if you could use help shaping your career and owning your own magic. All right, let's get back to Rowena talking about what roles feel most central to her identity today.
So at the time of this recording, last night was a new moon in Leo, which is about expressing yourself, identity, creativity, and owning that. And so I'm in this place right now where I'm working toward coming back to who I was before I became a mother, because as you know, motherhood takes up so much of you.
Mm-hmm.
And especially after experiencing something like PPP, it really, takes a hold on you. And so, as I mentioned, I am truly a creative at heart. I love to write, I love to sing, I love to dance, I love to perform. So hopefully getting back on stage at some point. But yeah, I think in the meantime, I can speak professionally because that's really a big part of who I am as well. I actually work at the Career Center at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Um, and I help graduate students get jobs. So that's been
Nice.
really fulfilling work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving us a little backdrop to your life and what's important to you. I'd love to explore your life before you experienced postpartum psychosis. Paint a picture for us and what was going on in your life the year leading up to your experience.
So the year leading up, I actually did not have a full-time job in this, like in the traditional sense.
Uh-huh.
I was exploring entrepreneurship, which I launched my business a year or so after my daughter was born in 2020. She really motivated me to see if what I can do in terms of my own business.
Yeah.
And it's career coaching, mostly life coaching, and I mostly work with PhD students, so folks with PhDs, doctorates that don't necessarily want to go the academic route and want to work outside of that space, which is what I did in my own career. So I was mostly building my business, getting ready for my son to arrive. And I experienced postpartum psychosis with my second child and not with my first.
Same.
So, yeah, so it was a bit of a different experience. And also, my daughter was born during the pandemic. So, that was
Uh,
also a weird time in of itself.
yeah.
So, just trying to navigate this second go around in a different time. My daughter came 21 days early. My son was being extremely stubborn and did not want to come out. So, trying everything to you know, just keep myself comfortable. We got a pool membership at the community pool because I was like, I need to just swim and be in
Yeah.
the water because I'm so hot and uncomfortable. Because I also had never experienced a summer pregnancy before and
Mhm.
I was, about ready to pop.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it was interesting because, with the second child, we had a sense of what we needed and we didn't have to do like the classes and all those preparatory things
Yeah.
that we did with our first because we had a better sense of
What to
of
expect.
things,
Yeah.
what to expect and whatnot. So just preparing to expand our family and have a second kiddo, yeah, while continuing to see what I could do with my own business.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
How was your pregnancy? How were you feeling physically and emotionally?
Yeah, so I was more sick with him than I was with my daughter. But still compare, I had friends that had hyperemesis. Like it was never that bad. I
Uh-huh.
was definitely more nauseous more frequently with him than with my daughter. And yeah, no, I mean, it was okay though. Uh, Emotionally, I felt I don't think until, I went into the psychosis part, I felt ready, I was excited.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was in a good mental space and physically I will say I think with my daughter with my first when I was pregnant the first time I was more active physically
Mm.
because I had a with my second I had another kid
Yeah, you have
to
a toddler.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had a toddler, so that was a little bit harder. I felt like I was more active when I was pregnant the first time. I did a
Hmm.
lot more prenatal yoga. I felt like I was, yeah, more physically active than
Well,
I was the
same.
second time. Yeah.
Will you share what your experience or a relationship with mental health was prior?
So the Winkler family as a whole, we are very pro therapy.
That's
Uh, uh,
amazing.
yeah. I mean, even when we got engaged, we did premarital counseling just as, just to make sure we were on the same page before we got married. So we're very, I'd been going to therapist for years and years and years.
Amazing.
I did group therapy in college, so I had a lot of experience working with different therapists. I have some trauma from my childhood that I had been working through. And actually, when I was 18 years old, I experienced a psychotic break. So I had already experienced psychosis my first semester of college. And I'm sure we'll get into it with the
Yeah.
postpartum psychosis piece, but it was a similar lead up in terms of not sleeping, not taking care of myself, and that led to my break. So,
Yeah.
I had worked with psychiatrists. I've been medicated at that point in time. By the time I was about to have my son, I had weaned off all my meds, so I wasn't on any medications at that point. But, I had gone through all of it. So, yeah.
All right. Coming in with a little blip on childhood trauma and mental health. Over two-thirds of children report experiencing at least one traumatic event by age 16, and at least 1 in 7 kids experience abuse or neglect annually in the US. So, this is not uncommon and not something we can totally shelter our kids from. Unfortunately, I think we can strive to, create an environment of health and wellness for our kids, but if they're out in the world and something scary happens, it does happen. There are various impacts that adverse experiences can have for kids, such as learning difficulties and increased use of health or mental health services. And there's some work on long-term health outcomes. There was a paper published last year looking at the link between childhood adverse experiences and postpartum psychosis. So in this paper, they talk about how there is work looking pretty broadly at childhood trauma and psychotic experiences. There's a meta-analysis from 2012 that shows a consistent association between childhood trauma and psychotic experiences. And they talk about how childhood trauma could include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, neglect, or exploitation. And these things are strongly linked to various mental health disorders. However, the relationship between childhood trauma and postpartum psychosis has not been well studied. There was one systematic review, which is a structured, comprehensive process of finding and appraising all high-quality studies relevant to a specific question. And so they looked at 17 studies and a large Danish cohort looking at the connection or relationship of postpartum psychosis and childhood abuse. And that came back with limited and inconclusive evidence. So this study that came out last year in 2024, they had a population of over 400 women about a month after giving birth, and they collected information on childhood abuse and neglect using self-report questionnaires, depression symptoms, anxiety symptoms, and psychotic-like experiences after childbirth. And they found that women who had experienced more psychological abuse or neglect as kids were more likely to have depression and anxiety after giving birth. And that those depression and anxiety symptoms were linked to having more psychotic-like experiences, such as feeling detached from reality or having strange thoughts. So, in other words, childhood trauma seemed to increase the risk of psychotic experiences in the postpartum era, mostly through depression and anxiety. They found that psychological abuse, like verbal humiliation or manipulation, had a direct link to psychotic experiences, even beyond its effect through depression and anxiety, where neglect only affected psychotic experiences indirectly through depression and anxiety, not on its own. So this is suggesting that childhood emotional abuse and neglect can make new moms more vulnerable to postpartum mental health issues. And depression and anxiety seem to be middle steps connecting early trauma to these psychotic-like experiences. Also wanted to share, I did a little digging into psychotic breaks in young adulthood. There is a solid webpage from the National Institute of Mental Health that I will link that talks about general psychosis and states, there is no one cause of psychosis. Psychosis appears to result from a complex combination of genetic risk, differences in brain development, and exposure to stressors or trauma. They talk about how it can be a symptom of mental illness, but you can experience psychosis and never be diagnosed with a disorder of any kind. Some possible causes could be sleep deprivation, certain prescription medications, and misuse of substances like alcohol or drugs. I found it interesting that one Yale publication talks about how psychosis apparently most often affects young adults, and it's relatively common. They give a stat about every 3 in 100 young people will experience an episode of psychosis. It's pretty high compared to 3%. Most individuals recover fully, but it can impact anybody. Getting help early greatly improves outcomes. About a quarter of people will never have another episode. Half may have more than one, but can lead normal, fulfilling lives. They talk about three phases of psychosis that I had never seen before. The first being prodrome, that involves early signs of reduced concentration, sleep disturbance, anxiety, social withdrawal, and odd beliefs or magical thinking. And then the acute phase, which is where the psychotic symptoms begin, like hallucinations, delusions, confused thinking. This is where behavior can get bizarre and where family members usually notice and seek help. And then the recovery phase, where you're getting care and recovering from the experience. So, three phases: prodrome, acute, and recovery. So, yeah, those are some interesting facts that if you want to read more about that, I will have them in the show notes. Okay, back to Rowena. I'm curious to hear more about what similarities or differences you
Yeah.
saw in the two experiences. Like, does anything stand out or like that was very different having a psychosis outside of a postpartum period, or like what was the difference?
Yeah, there was similarities in terms of the manifestation of the psychosis. So both times, and I think it's because of my performance background, I definitely was singing. I was singing a lot. There was a lot of performing things in both instances,
Oh,
both
it's
times.
amazing.
And both times I felt like writing writing helped so much. The nurses when I was 18. So I spent Christmas in the hospital when I was 18 when I
Oh,
had
okay.
that, and the nurses gifted me with a journal. I remember. I probably still
Oh,
have
that's
it.
sweet.
And that really helped me in my recovery and getting better. And same here. So I guess subconsciously I remembered that about that because I asked my husband to bring me a notebook
Mm.
to the hospital when I went to the inpatient for my postpartum psychosis. So there was that similarity. Um, some similarities in regards to I thought, well, yeah, I thought I was in a play, I thought I was in a show,
Oh,
nothing seemed real. I thought people were famous people when they weren't, or I thought people were people that I
okay.
knew, but they weren't. So
Okay.
there was
Yeah.
some interesting things with that. Obviously, with the postpartum psychosis, there was, I thought of and talked about my husband more, my children more. So
Because they were
that,
in your life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like I had a better handle on it the second time around because at some point I was like, oh,
Oh.
this is familiar.
Oh,
This,
really?
yeah, like I remembered this. Like when I first went into psychosis, not really, but as I was getting out of it, I was like, oh, right, like this happened
I've done this.
before.
Yeah.
I had done this before, and I felt I had a better handle of it. I felt a little more knowledgeable about it because when I was 18, I felt there was less
Okay.
autonomy as well
Mm,
because
okay.
I didn't really know what was going on. And my parents were the ones that sent me to the hospital. Um,
Did you recognize it in yourself then with postpartum psychosis or?
when it was happening, obviously I was so out of it, I was so in the psychosis that I
Uh-huh.
didn't know what was going on. But once I kind of went out of that, then I was, it was interesting. It was it was like a repeat, but a different flavor,
Okay. Yeah.
Even like the inpatient stay, it just felt there was, yeah, it was a fascinating
Interesting.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. We were talking about mental health. So you and your husband sound like are very, you're into therapy, open about what's happening. What about your broader family? Is that something you talked about in your family?
Not really. I'm an immigrant child, so my parents are from the Philippines. And so it wasn't really talked about openly. But, they weren't like anti-therapy, right? So if I wanted to go to a therapist, they were not like, no.
Yeah.
Same with my sister, so it's just me and my older sister.
Hmm.
But it wasn't really an open topic. I just, yeah, and I never really felt comfortable talking about those kinds of things anyway with my parents. I didn't have that type of relationship
Hmm.
with them
Yeah.
to really talk about it. But I always took it upon myself to get help if I needed help.
That's
I
great.
never was shy about that. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, along those lines, how would you describe your support network as you were going into the birth of your second child? What did your relationships look like?
Oh gosh. See, Megan, this is This is the part where I cry.
Oh, you're allowed to cry.
I cry about this every time it comes up. Um, my husband and I are very fortunate to have a village of amazing friends who, when I got sick, were just so supportive of us. Um, a group of my grad school friends sent hundreds and hundreds of dollars for Instacart because
Oh,
my husband needed help with groceries.
yeah.
Um, Another group of friends sent him a night doula to help him
Wow.
with the kids when I was in the hospital. And yeah, um they're just the type of friends who, I mean, with any of us, if anything was happening with any of us, we're always just there.
That's
And
amazing.
I just feel very fortunate that we're so blessed to have that community. And we're all very fortunate that we've all had kids around the same time. So
Mm.
even our kids played, like, for example, we're celebrating my son's second birthday tomorrow. And
Fun.
yeah,
Happy
all the
birthday
kids
to
are
him.
coming. Yeah, thank you. We're doing it at the community pool, and so all the
Nice.
kids will be there. All the kids will swim together. So yeah, it's just been really
That's
wonderful.
amazing. I have moments as well as I share my story that feel more emotional than others. I wonder, why do you think that that is particularly emotional for you?
I think because of my past and
Mm,
things that I've experienced in my life, there were moments where I didn't feel like,
you had that?
yeah, like I was worthy of love or worthy
Oh.
of care. And I had to do a lot of work to get there, even with my husband, with relationships. I had to work a lot with him just to feel like, people aren't going to leave.
Oh.
So yeah, I think that's part of it. Is like, no, like these people are here for you and they
Yeah.
love you
And they're gonna
and they
sustain
care about
you
yeah.
in hard times.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad you found that because it really is so special when you get it.
Yeah.
The village is hard to create.
Yeah, and just my husband is included in that because, and I'm sure we'll go into this, but like he saw the signs. He was the one
Mm,
that called 911, that got me the help I needed, that found PSI, that,
mm.
you know, that did all, he's the info gatherer type, so he was just searching, just trying to find ways to help and to get me the help I needed. He found the support groups, he
Yeah.
did so much, and I'm just so grateful to him
Yeah.
because
Oh,
I don't know what would have happened if I didn't get to the hospital when I did, I you
yes,
hear
I
these
do. I
stories.
do know.
Yeah, like some I don't know. I don't know what would have happened, but I'm just so thankful that he saw the signs and he went straight into action.
Yeah. Yeah. I For me, my experience also resulted in this just like insane love from my partner who was so understanding and he saw the signs and he got me to the hospital and was so compassionate and gave me grace for just breaking. And
Yeah.
so I hear you. And I'm so glad that
Yeah.
you have a partner who was there with you through it because I'm learning that that's not the case and that's
Yes.
pretty heartbreaking.
Yes, I've heard those stories too.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to hear about your birth experience of your second
Yeah.
child. I mean, if there's anything relevant from your first.
No, no. Oh, from my first. Well, like I said, he was stubborn, which I feel like tracks now in terms of his personality as a little guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was induced at 40 weeks.
Okay.
I went through IVF to have both of my children. So because it was an IVF pregnancy, they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna induce you at 40," which is fine because I didn't. I was ready.
You
I was
don't
like,
really
"Get
want to
this
be.
baby out." Generally, it was a fairly seamless as far as, L&D goes.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, the doctor was great. She was very educational. We got to feel like I got to feel my umbilical cord. I got to see my
Cool.
amniotic sac. Like she was like very it was
Yeah.
really fun. And we were just, I had a doula for both of my birthing times. I wanted the same doula for my second, but she was not available. So I went with someone else. But then it turns out she was unable to come that day
Oh
because she had like
no.
a 30-plus hour delivery with someone
Okay.
else. So she sent a friend, like another person,
Uh-huh.
which was fine.
But you
And she
didn't
was
have a
helpful.
like relationship with the person.
No, I didn't know. We didn't know who she was until
Yeah.
she showed up. Um, but it turned out actually, Derek, my husband and I were so much in sync and like we kind of knew the drill based on the first go round. I mean, even this doula said that she had never seen a couple so like in sync and like in
Amazing.
communication before with this process. And I felt that way. And like, so it was just great. I pushed Robbie out in 4 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, he just came on out. um, yeah, and he was able to latch right away. Like,
Amazing. Okay.
nope, really any problems with that. And so, yeah, the only issue was that I had like a blood pressure thing. They like raised the hospital bed up and I got really dizzy and my blood pressure dropped a bit. But they got it under control. But and then I got a ton of sushi and it was great. Like it was like a great day.
Yeah, great. I have a follow-up question on the, do you remember if with your blood pressure if they gave you something for that or
I think they gave fluids. I don't remember
okay.
what exactly. I do remember though they were trying to get that like instant blood pressure
Monitor?
monitor thing, the cuff, but like it wasn't working, so they kept trying to and my husband was telling me after the fact that he was getting so frustrated, like just use a manual. Well, like why? Just like we know because I think apparently my numbers were I don't remember what they were, but they were like pretty low, like they were not
Yeah.
good. So he was like freaking out a bit. Like,
Um,
just do something. But I'm
yeah.
pretty sure they gave me an IV. They saved me something through the IV. I don't
Okay.
remember what.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good birth experience.
Yeah, it was very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Okay. I want to transition into kind of the beginning of your experience with postpartum psychosis.
Okay.
And before we get into it, I want to hear how you would describe what it is to be in postpartum psychosis.
Hmm. Yeah, I would describe it as losing yourself at a time when there's a lot of things out of your control.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the way my husband described it when he posted on Facebook
Okay.
about what had happened. He calls postpartum psychosis a meaner cousin of PPD or PPA,
Uh,
which I
okay.
thought was an interesting way to frame because the thing was I'd known about postpartum depression. I had an eye out for it even with my first, birth. Like, okay, that could happen. And I
Hmm.
had heard about postpartum anxiety from a friend who had had it. I'd never heard of postpartum psychosis.
Same.
But I know it's like, like in the scale of things, like it's over there.
For you, how did the first signs show up?
So mine was caused by not sleeping, which, as I had mentioned, was the cause of my first break when I was 18. So
Hmm.
I now know I must sleep. So with my second, and I don't know if you've experienced this, Megan, it was this, before with the first, you like don't know things and you're just
Right.
like, ah, da, da. But I think with my second, I like knew things, knew more things and like things that could go wrong. And my son was making weird, choky, gaspy noises, which are perfectly normal, like for a newborn. But like,
Uh-huh.
I guess I forgot, or it seemed weirder to me, or maybe just where he was positioned to where we slept because we were in a different house. compared to with my daughter. So
Mm-hmm.
I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, he's like gonna die. So I did not sleep. I like, because the bassinet was at the foot of our bed. So I moved the pillow from the head of my bed to the foot of my bed. And I laid there and was like listening to make sure he wouldn't die. And I didn't sleep. And then all of a sudden, my daughter was awake. So it was
Uh,
morning time. And I decided to go hang out with her in her room. And I remember my husband coming in pretty angry actually and was like, why haven't you slept to me? And I was
he
just
knew.
like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because I think he kept waking up or whatever, and like, or maybe I don't remember if like I woke him up and was like, oh my God, or if he just knew I was awake or something. I don't. At that point, I could, looking back, that was when I was starting to slip, I think,
Uh-huh.
because I remember my daughter wanted breakfast and like she's trying to talk to me and I like can't like vocalize. Like it was hard for me to talk to her and I had the baby and I remember sitting there and my husband coming downstairs and I told him like I told him that we needed help. I was like, we need to figure out. I remember texting my old doula and saying, "Do you do nights?" Like I was like I think I like knew. I was like I need
I need
help.
help. Mm-hmm.
And I told him I was like I think I told him I'm disassociating. I think is what I said to him.
Mm.
Was like I need help. I'm like
Yeah.
holding this baby. I'm like I need help. I'm disassociating. Like and that day it was a Sunday, so he was off work. Oh yeah, and my daughter didn't have school. I didn't have daycare.
Yeah.
So
W-
um
Sorry, where
yeah,
are you
go ahead.
postpartum? How?
So this is 2.5 weeks
Okay.
after I had my son.
Okay.
So my son is 2.5 weeks old. And then the day just got weirder in terms of I thought I had COVID at one point because I like my smelling got weird. Like I was so out of it. And eventually we sent my daughter on a play date to kind of help because we were like, okay, you need to sleep. But I just could not sleep. I think I was just so anxious and wired and like out of it that I just couldn't sleep. And then it got to the point where I thought I heard my daughter calling me, but she wasn't there. And
Mm.
then like my affect with the like there was one point where I was like I need help and like I would the way I like passed the baby like I just had no that's what my husband was saying like the way that I just like passed the baby I thought I was feeding a different baby at one point like it was all this weird stuff that was happening and my
Mm-hmm.
husband was like but I kept telling him don't call 911. I was telling him not to. I was like
Oh,
don't call 911. I think because I was afraid I was going to get taken away. I don't know. Like I just kept telling him don't do it. He ended up texting 911, which apparently is a thing.
I didn't know you could do that.
You apparently can like apparently it's can be used for domestic violence type of situations,
Oh.
right? Where if
Yeah.
someone yeah, can't call, they can text.
Uh-huh.
So he did end up texting because it was just getting yeah, and
All right, a note on this text to 911 feature. This is available depending on your local municipality. The preference is to call so you can provide more detail, but if you need to text, I'm seeing more than 3,000 local departments in the United States that support texting. It looks like AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon have committed to making this possible in areas where local centers have the technology set up, and where it isn't, you would get a bounced text back so that you would know it wasn't delivered. It looks like this legislation was back in 2014. It was a push to get text to 911 systems in place. So we're a decade in and it should be more available now. And it's nice to know that there is part of this legislation required a bounced text so that you would know if it wasn't delivered. So another note on sleep and mania. There in a publication for obstetric providers it was published in 2018. This is a clinical guide. They talk about how sleep deprivation has long been known to trigger manic episodes and in some cases has even been used maybe drastically as a treatment for depression. I'm not sure this is a routine treatment approach, but you can sleep deprive someone and increase their energy levels and even trigger a manic episode. So, little research has focused specifically on the link between sleep loss and postpartum mania or psychosis, though some studies have observed that a woman who experience prolonged labor or give birth during the night may be more likely to develop postpartum psychosis from the missed out sleep, from the sleep that they missed out on, perhaps. One study that was done in the UK looked at 76 pregnant women who did have a diagnosis of bipolar 1 or schizoaffective bipolar. Before their pregnancy, they were followed from early pregnancy through 12 weeks postpartum, and they found that women who missed at least one full night of sleep during labor and delivery were much more likely to develop postpartum psychosis, and that was nearly half, so 45%, compared to those who didn't lose an entire night of sleep. Only 14% developed postpartum psychosis. And that's even accounting for where women were taking mood stabilizers. And losing a full night's sleep was about a 5-fold higher risk of postpartum psychosis for those who already had a bipolar disorder, which is good to know that, if you have a long labor where you're missing out on nights of rest, you need to be proactive in catching up and trying to restore that sleep. It seems like that could be an action item there. Okay, back to Rowena.
Yeah. And then when my daughter came back from her play date, at that point, I thought she was given a script and was in a play and like telling me lines that
Oh,
I needed to know. And it got super strange. I thought there were people at the house that weren't there. So, yeah, my husband texts 911. They send over a crisis intervention service from our county. So there was a woman there with a police officer. Um, they tell me I should probably go to the ER. Like they convinced me to go to the ER. And my friend my friend took me to the ER.
okay.
Um,
She drove
that
you to the
She
ER.
drove me.
What was
Mhm.
the drive like? Do you remember?
Oh my gosh. So at one point, the drive over, I thought I saw my mom's car and like called out for my mom. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know where I was going. It was late. It was dark. It was
Huh.
nighttime. I remember as I was leaving, seeing Derek holding Robbie, holding the baby, and like, because he had to put my daughter to bed. So he's holding the baby, like standing on the steps, like watching us. And I have a vague memory of him just looking, I don't know, sad or scared, or you know what I mean? Like, I just remember his disposition as we were driving away,
Mm-hmm.
like worried, I guess. And then they actually knew, and I know this isn't the case with everyone. The caseworker person from the crisis services met us there and said, "Tell them it's postpartum psychosis." So like they
Really?
knew.
Oh,
They knew what
that's
it
nice.
was. I know. Because I know after the fact that's not the case for a lot of
Ah,
moms. Yeah. So they like knew already what it was.
wow. Okay. So they sent a crisis intervention team who was able to recognize
Yeah.
and
I don't know how, but yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Mhm.
I wanna hear a little bit more about your symptoms. So you talked about decreased need for sleep, like not needing or not being able to sleep.
Yes.
Delusions, it sounds like. Any other
Yeah.
symptoms that you remember?
I mean the delusions, then the hallucinations started coming through once I got to the hospital. Like
Okay.
those were the paranoia got real quick.
What did that, I mean, were there themes there or?
Oh gosh, a lot. I was very scared. So one of the it's nice that I can laugh about it now because at the time it wasn't very funny. One of the uh I don't know if he was a, I think he was a one of the psychiatrists, one of the medical professionals that came to our ward, to our floor at the hospital, very much looked like my ex.
Oh.
And I was super scared because somehow in my brain, I thought he was trying to kill me. I don't know where that came from. But when I thought it was him, I hid and got very scared and thought he was going to shoot me. So there was that. I thought there were, so the way that my room was, if I looked out the window, there was like another little window at the top of the next building right there within my eyesight. For a couple days, I was afraid there was a sniper there that was going to shoot me in my room.
Oh.
um, I didn't. Oh, I there was a point where I didn't trust the nurses and thought they were
Mm.
trying to poison me, so I wouldn't take my meds. So there was that point too.
Yeah, I
Actually,
remember.
one of the fellow patients told me that. She said they're trying to poison us, and I believed
Oh.
her.
Wait, were
So
you
then,
in a general inpatient or
yes, general.
okay.
So it was
Me too.
all different. Yes, all different walks of life and different, there was people there for drug abuse and alcoholism that were hanging out in our, yeah, so it was all different people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you, oh, I remember this now in your blog. So you were not taking your meds somehow, and like
Yeah. Yeah, I was spitting them out.
you're spinning. Yeah, I totally like, yeah, because you're in your head. You're like, I gotta, yeah, like,
It was very like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You know what I mean? Like I would like
oh, that
take it and try to
show.
hide it under the tongue and but the nurse obviously knew that. So
Oh.
I was like playing games like that. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, so you're in a general inpatient psych ward. You're getting medication, avoiding it. And what did treatment look like from there? Like, when did you realize you needed to start taking your meds? What made the biggest difference as you were recovering?
I'm trying to remember like what led me to finally,
Yeah, take your meds.
get out of it and take my meds. Well, one of the turning points was a nurse who was super nice and like really, she really listened because I was having trouble sleeping too, because I was just so anxious and hype and like I just could
Yeah.
not sleep. And so there was a core memory of her just really taking the time to say, okay, we're going to come up with a plan. And she was just very, yeah, just her approach. She was just so thoughtful and kind.
Mm,
And it really made a difference. I think too, it was once I was getting better enough to realize I had to get better to see my kids and to see my family. There was group
mhm.
therapy, there was art therapy, right? So once I started engaging in the activities and kind of knew what was going on,
Yeah.
I think that helped as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it sounds like a nurse was helped like maybe shift you're like, oh, maybe she's not trying to poison me. Maybe these
Yeah.
people are trying to help. Um,
Yeah.
that's great. Okay. Were there any barriers in the process of accessing care? If so,
Hmm.
what are they?
Well, what was frustrating is that um when after I was discharged, I had to go back like a week later because I experienced akathisia. I don't know if you're familiar with that
What
or
is that?
so it's like an inner restlessness. It was a side effect of one of my medications, but I didn't know at the time, but once I got home, it was really bad. So it's basically like my mind is here, but my body just won't. Like I can't it's a very strange sensation. Like I know cognitively what's going on. So it's kind of like the opposite. Like
Oh,
like I was here with it with
in your
my,
brain.
in my brain, but like my body was just not, yeah, and so I couldn't sleep and same thing again. It was just like I couldn't sit still. Um and I went to go see the urgent care, the psychiatric urgent care, but they recommended that I go to the day
Uh-huh.
hospital, but they didn't have an opening until the following week. And at that point, it had gotten so bad that my husband was like, I need to take you back to the ER. So I guess that was, yeah, we didn't know that I was having that side effect of this medication until after I was discharged
Yeah.
already.
When you were discharged, what were you sent home with for meds?
Oh gosh, it was a lot at the time.
Okay.
Um, the med that caused the akathisia was the Haldol.
Okay.
I definitely was probably on trazodone back then
Uh-huh.
because I couldn't sleep. And I don't remember. I'm trying to remember what it was, a whole long list that I've since weaned off of.
Yeah.
So most of them. Um, well, I guess so. Today I'm still on the lithium. So I
Okay.
guess they put me on the lithium maybe back then, and I didn't haven't
Okay.
gone off it.
So, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So you were sent home with like several medications.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Wow, it's so
Um.
everyone's so varied, it seems.
Oh, I had a Lanzapine too. Yeah. So I had a whole bunch of. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, that makes sense. That would be frustrating to need to go back in right after you were discharged.
Yeah.
What would you have changed about how you got help or the treatment that you got?
I mean, it's interesting looking back on it now because a friend of mine who's a PA, she mentioned because my husband took a picture of me holding the baby when I got home the first time. She was like, I could tell like something in your eyes. Like she was like, you didn't look, you know what I mean? She was like,
Mm,
you didn't look like fully well. I know a part of it was because I'm an actor, right? I'm an actress. I know a part of it was I remember because I had to talk on the phone on speaker with the social worker and my husband and talk about how I've gotten so much better. And I remember like no like being like I have to nail this so that I could get discharged. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And
I do.
and I remember afterwards her being like you did so well. Like I remember her being like you did so well. Good job, right?
Um,
So probably might have not been 100% ready to leave, but I just
yeah,
really wanted to leave.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Um, when you were in the hospital, how long did it take you to feel better or feel improvement?
Yeah, so like I said, I think my first day I probably could have used a couple extra days or at least to figure out that I had this side effect to this medication.
Hmm.
The second time was different because I was better, like there was no more psychosis as once I got off the med. Like once they took me off the med and put me on a different like then it changed so like
Cleared.
I felt yeah, it cleared and I felt a lot better. It so it was just like making sure that we got this med out of my system and that I was in a good place. I was actually pretty bored the second stay because
Really?
because when I was in psychosis the first time I was doing all, I was like
Yeah, things
dancing
were
around and doing
interesting.
stuff. Yeah, the
Yeah.
second time I was like, up another crossword, like I was like, ah. Um and yeah, so since I already done a lot of the conversations and things, so it was just kind of just biding my time. So I would say overall it was what maybe 3 weeks or so total
Okay.
that it took. Yeah, and then I did a 2-week day hospital program, which was
Yeah.
very helpful.
Yeah. Teach me, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's like a partial hospitalization program where it felt like work or school because I had to drive I went to Shepherd Pratt. That's where I did my PHP. It was from 8:30 to 3 p.m. And it was like a mini conference essentially where I learned all these strategies like coping mechanisms
Yeah.
and yeah it was I really enjoyed it. I mean I still have my binder with all my handouts learning about
Oh.
CPT and DPT and all the different approaches and um how to manage when you get too anxious or too
Mm.
stressed or depressed or things like that and just learning from each other too from the larger group because we would also break off and do group therapy sessions which was really helpful to share our experiences.
Was this a perinatal specific program or?
No, it
Oh.
was not.
In, but
Again.
you still found it was helpful though. It felt.
Yeah. Yeah, actually my first day my first day, someone brought up their partner dealing with psychosis,
Oh,
and I brought up my experience. And I remember the therapist talking to my husband saying, "Oh, she did great. She like participated, right? You know what I mean? Like, um, so yeah, so there were moments, yeah, where we were able to understand each other and help each
yeah.
other out. So
Did your husband participate in that too, or did you?
no, they just
Okay.
would check in with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they
I
would
see.
communicate with him every couple days or so and just talk about my progress.
Got it. Okay, a note on these acronyms. CBT is an acronym for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. This is a versatile and widely used therapy that helps people identify and change negative or unhelpful thinking patterns. It's kind of a broad category of therapies that can help with these behaviors that and thinking patterns that contribute to emotional distress. It can be used for anxiety, depression, eating disorders, insomnia, a variety of disorders. CPT is an acronym for Cognitive Processing Therapy. It's an evidence-based treatment for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It focuses on identifying and challenging unhelpful beliefs resulting from trauma. It's sits under CBT, if I understand correctly. DBT stands for dialectical behavioral therapy. It's a specialized form of therapy that teaches emotion regulation, mindfulness, and distress tolerance skills. It seems like it's also part of it is embracing discomfort and negative emotion, to better manage intense emotion and behavior. So, CPT, cognitive processing therapy, can help individuals reframe perspectives around traumatic events, and DBT can help build skills for greater emotional stability and acceptance. Okay, I had to do a little dive in there to understand myself. I did not do a day program and didn't get this rich training that it sounds like Rowena got. On day programs, I was curious about the difference between perinatal and general outpatient programs. And it seems like a core distinction would be that perinatal programs accommodate babies often, so you can bring your baby with you. So it might be more accessible to moms with tiny babies. But it's great to know that, if a perinatal day program isn't available in your area, that, Rowena had a great experience in a general outpatient program. And so also worth looking into. All right, let's get back to Rowena reflecting on how postpartum psychosis impacted her.
Oh man. Um, well, it's again, as I mentioned, this is my second go round. But different because I'm a mother now. So it certainly put into perspective, it was yet another reminder of slowing down and taking time to take care of yourself because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the first go round it was a similar message because I was pulling all-nighters trying it because I think it was like finals week or it was a stressful time of the semester when I got sick when I was 18.
Mm.
And yeah, just reminding myself that I need to, like, there's no way I can take care of these kids if I am not taking care of myself,
Mm-hmm.
not to feel guilty and taking time to take care of myself. That's still something I'm working on. It's like 2 years later. Um,
Yes.
yeah, right. Not feeling the guilt of
Mm-hmm.
needing some time
Yeah,
to
finding the
take care of
balance
myself.
of.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge one. I One of the things, you mentioned my blog series. That was really cathartic for me, but also really powerful in a way that people reached out to me who I hadn't heard from in literal years, right?
Oh.
So people from college, people from like all different areas of my life who are friends with me on Facebook, right? They would reach out and say, "Oh my gosh, this helped me so much. Oh my gosh, I went through postpartum depression and da da da," or I really thank you for sharing your experiences with therapy, blah, blah, blah. Right. So that was really helpful to know that my story
Help.
can, can help and
Yeah.
create impact in these ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you share that in your social media then?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
great. At what point did you write that?
It was pretty early on. I think I finished the last post 2 months after
Wow.
I got out. Yeah, it was
Okay.
pretty quick. I mean, that was the thing too. I felt like both times I went into psychosis, my recovery was like pretty quick. Because I
Uh-huh.
hear these stories of folks who, they're still not feeling themselves. But I feel great. I felt pretty good for a long time now,
Yeah.
thankfully. So
That's great.
yeah, yeah.
That's great. How did this impact like the way you saw yourself as a mother?
Uh, let's see. Hmm.
Or maybe it didn't. Maybe, it doesn't have to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think as I mentioned, our family, which I appreciate, our family as a whole is our nuclear family. We're very open and communicative, especially when it comes to emotions, feelings, mental health,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So I don't think it impacted. I mean, maybe in some ways it just keeps demonstrating the importance of checking checking in on each other
Yeah.
and going to therapy and doing what we need to do to take care of each other. I mean, it'll be interesting, once my son gets old enough for me to, I definitely plan on sharing with him that this happened. Not to make him feel bad in any way, but to just say, hey, this happened, and just continuing to increase awareness
Yeah.
that this is something that can happen.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Same. Same. It's something I'm like now talking about with my kids because I'm spending so much time on like the world
Yeah.
of postpartum psychosis, and so I'm getting questions, and it's like good to be like, yeah, I was hospitalized after Gemma was
Yeah.
born, and like I'm, diving into whatever. I love that you were able to write your story so, quickly after your experience. Were there any other things that you did that you felt helped your, processing or recovery?
So earlier this year, I wrote a monologue
Oh,
of my experience where I share my story and then also sing. So I
wow.
sing the songs that I sang when I was in the hospital. And so I've since performed it twice. So once at a like cabaret situation for a local community theater in my town, and then second was for a um it was for an organization that focused on mothers' stories.
Mm.
So I got to share it then as well, and that's been really awesome. And
Yeah.
yeah, really cool to again just increase awareness and to share my story and then have like a little performance part of it where I get to sing and stuff. So I hope to continue with that or expand it or I have aspirations of maybe making it like a one woman show and like doing more with it in the future
Oh,
because there's just
fun.
so many parts of it that I love to share. So, yeah, I, I, I mean, I guess that's part of the hope I could take care of myself too, is like getting a chance to write because I feel like it's been hard now that both of my kids are a little bit older to find the energy to
Um,
write.
all right. There is no one woman show yet that I can link, but I am committed to updating the show notes if and when Rowena continues to build on this work of her monologue about her experience, celebrating her and the art that she's expressing and processing her life experience through. All right, now let's hear about Rowena's tools for mental health today.
Right now, I feel great in this moment, this period, in this season.
Huh?
I feel great. I have an amazing care team. So I have an amazing therapist who I started to see after I got out of the hospital. So she was brand new to me because I was looking to switch therapists anyway. So I found a new therapist. I'm still working with her. She's amazing. I'm still seeing my same NP, my prescribing NP, who makes sure that I'm doing great from a medication standpoint. And what's really funny is every time I see her every couple months now, she goes, "You look great. You look so much better each time." So that's really
Oh,
validating to hear. I
yeah.
have my friend who's an acupuncturist who I've
Hmm.
been seeing for forever, like almost 10 years I've been seeing her. So she's
Wow.
part of my care team. as well. And then, of course, the village that I will just say that because I don't want to cry again.
Oh.
um, really, yeah. So I'm just very fortunate again that I have a great care team and family and friends, and that, my 2-year anniversary is August 20th since
Mm.
I got sick. And just reflecting on that is holy moly. I just feel like it was a sucky time and it was a really hard experience, but I'm really proud of the way that I've decided to show up. And I know this is different for everyone, but for me, part of my healing is sharing my story and
Mhm.
advocating for more awareness of this and helping other mothers who are feeling alone in this. And so, being part of the PPP task force and doing things like this, right? Speaking on podcasts and sharing my story. I got recently connected with a group in Maryland who does awareness events of
Cool.
these, postpartum perinatal type of things. So, yeah, I mean, just finding ways to help out and to share and support any way I can.
I had a follow-up question for Rowena after our conversation, and she was nice enough to send me a voice memo. I'm going to fold in her response here. I had asked her about what her providers had said as far as long-term lithium use and whether they were recommending she stay on it and on any screening for bipolar. And this is what she said.
So, funnily enough, even though I'm wondering about my lithium use and whether it's a long-term situation, I actually have not yet had that conversation with my NP, though I think I'm at a point now, given that it's almost been 2 years since my situation, my experience, my episode. I think maybe I'll have that conversation now and I can report back. Something that I had thought of because it has come up in my conversations with my husband and in our research, that with lithium, it could be, this is a forever thing with this medication. And I will say, as it's been the constant in terms of my medication intake, there's definitely been a difference. And I feel like before my psychosis, right? I feel like I'm less anxious. I'm definitely, I'm still anxious, but less so. And I feel that I'm more at a baseline. I feel like before I definitely would have my peaks and valleys, and they were a little more extreme, right? With my moods and my emotions. Now I feel like a more consistent baseline. So I'm very thankful for that. When it comes to the bipolar, based on my conversations with the doctor that I met with at my day hospital stay at my PHP, he mentioned it, but he said based off of what he's read about my history and everything like that, he doesn't think it's, there's a bipolar diagnosis there. He doesn't think that that's part of the situation. I mean, when I had my psychotic episode the first time when I was 18, my psychiatrist said that, right, I just, experienced a psychotic episode. So there was nothing really attached to it. There was nothing really going on with it. And, I would think at first when I was coming out of my postpartum psychosis, my husband and I did have conversations like, oh, maybe, based on my behavior and things like that. But I don't know. I'm thinking that it's not that, and it was more a lack of sleep, hormones, anxiety, life. But I will again talk to my NP and report back to you.
I appreciated the detailed response there and felt inspired myself to consult my own care team and get screened for bipolar myself. And the answer was also no. We discussed anxiety and some other things. So that is something you can do. If you wonder, you should talk to your psychiatrist and or therapist about these things. And there are screening tools that can help de-blur. Okay, now we get to hear a sort of monologue where Rowena reads one of her blog posts about her postpartum psychosis experience.
Another thing that's been hard for you in recovery is knowing that for now, there will always be pieces of me left behind. Whether it's when you feel your body temperature rise as your toddler is screaming and crying, or when your chest tightens up because you haven't fallen asleep yet, you feel my presence. I am there. I am there. I'm not as potent or as palpable, but I'm always buzzing in the background as your body buzzes with sensory overload, and you take a deep breath, recite an affirmation, and give yourself butterfly hugs. You feel my presence. I am there. I am that anxious thought in the back of your mind that I might come back and embody you, taking you away from your children yet again and overpowering your fragile mind. You feel my presence. I am there. I am there. I am there. But you are here.
I really love that.
That's nice.
It resonated so much,
nice.
like so much for me. When I read that, I was like, oh, that hits
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, I'm like getting chills just reading it myself. Ooh, okay.
So powerful. Okay, we have a minute.
Yeah, you're good.
The question I want to make sure we hit on is, what advice would you give to someone who's recently experienced postpartum psychosis?
My piece of advice is to find support wherever you can, right? We mentioned, Megan, that sometimes that's not from your partner or from your immediate family. And I'm so sorry if that's the case for you. But just know that there are resources outside of that, because you do need that support, whether it's in PSI support groups or other local community organizations in your area. Find ways to get plugged in and connected. Find a really great therapist, find a really great psychiatrist or NP or whatever you need to get the support that you need. And then, as we talked about throughout this conversation, there are many different ways that we all deal with the aftermath of what happened to us. So take the time and in your own time, do what you need to do, right? So for me, I'm an extrovert, right? So it's more outward, creative, volunteering, but maybe for you, it's more inward, reflecting, writing, doing things for yourself or doing things with your family. Just taking stock of what's really going to help you in your recovery process and help you realize that you're not alone in this and that you will get to the other side and that there are people out there who have experienced this or who are professionals in this space that have the knowledge and expertise to help you. Because, you're just not alone.
+1 to that. You are not alone. Everyone has mental health needs. There is no shame in needing medication, therapy, and/or community to support better mental health. That's a wrap on our conversation with Dr. Rowena Winkler. This was an energizing one for me. Something about her energy made me karate chop down the hall after our connect. So grateful to Rowena for her warmth and work to raise awareness and support those impacted by postpartum psychosis. Read more about her experience, including an awesome hallucination involving Prince Zuko from Avatar, in the linked blog, Letters from My Postpartum Psychosis. This conversation had me reflecting on my own childhood experiences and how my psychosis was rooted in some subpar family dynamics. It helped me face some narratives I was holding on to that I didn't need to. I'm grateful to my psychosis for giving me language to better identify and address my own needs. Also, if you'd like to join a budding Discord channel and help shape upcoming episodes, please email hello@mombreakspodcast.com and I can share a link. Be kind to your mind. Thanks for listening.